God, season 20. I don't know. How am I even supposed to get excited for this season? Yeah, let's go! What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is NCIS season 20. 20? Episode 1, A Family Matter. Yeah, I can't believe I've been on this show for this long. I can't believe it's still going. But to be fair, I mean, by season 20, you would think they would run out of ideas. And based on this episode, clearly they have. Because, wow, what a stupid, just absolutely stupid way to take this case. I mean, I'm actually livid. I'm just kind of at that livid state of I'm kind of laughing about how pissed off I am about how stupid this episode is. Because what idiot working at CBS for the NCIS writing team or whatever, what idiot went, you know what, guys? I don't think NCIS Hawaii is drawing in the numbers that we want them to. So what if we take the storyline that we built up in NCIS in season 19, and then we finish the story in the first episode of our second season of NCIS Hawaii? That would get people watching, right? No, screw that. I'm not watching your damn show because you're finishing up a story. It was one thing whenever they had that one episode with Torres. I think it was last season or maybe the season before. But there was a story that they had built up a little bit in an episode with Torres where he was going to see some guy that he had apparently gone up against in the past or something. But it was a side story. And then they finished it up. I think it was NCIS Hawaii as well. So that was one thing. You took a side story that you introduced in one episode and you finished it in another episode. It's stupid, but you know what? It's something to try to boost the numbers a little bit. To see, oh, is Torres going to be okay? Are they going to kill him off in another show? Obviously not. This is a story that is specifically NCIS oriented. It's focused on Parker. I mean, the guy is going after him, framing him. And we're going to find out who he is and then finish up his story in another show. How does that make any damn sense? Like, I know it's a marketing thing. I know it's them trying, like I said, to boost their numbers for NCIS Hawaii, which ironically is canceled now. So clearly it didn't work. Who thought that was a good idea? Who thought that people weren't going to get pissed about that and go, no, I'm not watching that shit? And I didn't. I looked up the synopsis because I was not about to watch another show with all these new characters that I don't know anything about to see how this story wrapped up. And what's even dumber is looking at the synopsis, apparently this all turns into Maxwell was going after some guy that I guess gave him the ideologies that he was built on or something. And then that guy turned his back on him, and so he was going after his son, who was in a naval training exercise in Hawaii. All of this buildup of why is the Raven going after Parker? Why is he doing this? Oh, doesn't matter. He just wanted to get out of prison so he could go after this guy's son. This guy that we never met before. Isn't that fun? But to be fair, when the NCIS Hawaii guys showed up, which I don't even know that that's who they are, they just mentioned Hawaii, so I assumed. I probably should have guessed that that's what they were doing. All the stuff with that is stupid. You know, Torres and this one girl hitting it off. Who cares? It's not like they're going to start a relationship between two characters on different shows. That wouldn't make any sense because then you would have to constantly do crossovers. And the actors aren't going to do that. And then there's also this little bit of a jealousy thing with Jimmy because this one guy's interested in Knight. That was fun, wasn't it? To watch these stupid high school antics of Jimmy who has a thing for Knight. Being like, oh yeah, she's with this guy Rocco who's extremely handsome and super tough. And I'm just like, this is high school shit. This is the stuff I'd see on Disney. And I'm not watching a Disney Channel show. And yet here we are doing Disney Channel show jokes. Why is that funny? The other thing that was really stupid about this is the fact that apparently, is it Vivian? I think is Parker's ex-wife. We find out she was messaging Sweeney at the end of last season. That was who she was talking to, and he was trying to get her to turn in Parker. But then we come to find out apparently she was never going to do that. And then she actually messaged Fornell and asked him to meet up. And she did all of this without talking to him. And her reasoning is, oh, well, if you sense any sort of distrust, you just go crazy. So better to hide all of this from him, that you're doing this to help him, than to just tell him about it. Because that makes sense, right? If he really flips out whenever he senses disloyalty, maybe you should tell him what you're doing so he doesn't find out on his own. Dumbass. I don't understand that. Like she said, I have my reasons at one point, I'm just waiting to hear the explanation because I'm like, none of that makes sense. If you truly were never going to turn him into Sweeney, and you had this whole idea to send him off searching somewhere that you guys were not going to be, and then also to message Fornell and have him meet you guys, if you were going to plan to do that from the beginning, you should have told him. Not telling him, he's going to figure out that you're messaging somebody, and he's going to wonder why. Oh, he should just trust her. No! In the situation he's in, where somebody is coming after him, why should he have to trust anybody? So it felt like a stupid plot point that just basically was a red herring for us, the audience, to be like, oh no, she's turning on him. No, she's not. You just wanted to make us think she is to build the tension, when in reality, anybody in their right mind would have been like, hey, just let you know, Sweeney's trying to flip me. I'm not going to do it. First episode of this season, I'm already turned off for this. Last season had kind of got me a little bit more excited, maybe a little bit of hope about where the show was going to go, because Parker was a nice addition to the team. He was kind of like Gibbs, but also different. So there was something new, something fresh about it. And then you introduce this Raven storyline and end with that. And I'm like, okay, let's see where it goes. And now you just killed all of my excitement because you turned it into a marketing ploy to get people to watch your other show. And a lot of the decisions, a lot of the stories that you told, the side stories in this one, were either high school drama or didn't make any damn sense. And now I'm not at all excited for this season. NCIS has always been a show that has been very simplistic, has been very, you just sort of turn your brain off and have a good time. This is the type of shit that even when I turn my brain off, I go, that doesn't make any sense. The stuff with Jimmy, it's not funny. Stuff with Viv, even with no brain working, I go, that's purely just stupidity. And again, the fact that they decide to end this story on a different show after we've seen nothing but Raven and Parker going head to head, that was the build up. Now here we are. It's not about him anymore. It's about somebody else on a different show. So anyways, with that being said, we'll move on. I realized that, yeah, if I'm not having fun, I could just stop reviewing. But hell, I've been doing this show for several seasons now. Like, not even just watching it. Obviously, I've watched it for a long time if I'm on season 20. But I'm pretty sure I started reviewing when I was on like season 13, something like that. So I've done several seasons of reviews. I feel like I'm kind of here. I want to see where it's going to go. And unfortunately, it's just not going in a direction that's at all exciting. At least it'll give me reviews where I can rip into the show. That's something, right? But anyways, on to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now episode 2, Daddy Issues. This one was just meh. Nothing really awful about it. It's just kind of a stereotypical meh episode where the jokes aren't really that funny, the story isn't really that interesting, and there's a lot of potential for more to come out of this, but it feels like they sort of just kept it very simplistic. The stuff with the vault that gets broken into and all of the cheese that's in there. I think there was a weapons vault that they talked about at one point that was also a part of that. Like, you've got this very interesting setup in that regard, but then it's not about that at all. That turns out to not even be involved in the case. It ends up being more about the money that was taken from this Carter guy and him trying to get it back and all of that. That's really what it boils down to, is just who took the money. They're suspecting all these different dads who are all kind of jerks, but they're deep. They're really deep, but then they're just high school bullies at the end of it all, making fun of people that aren't them. I'm just like, what is the point of all of this? It doesn't make any sense. Of course, it turns out to be the random juice bar guy that we saw for like a few seconds because he had like a line earlier. I don't know. It's just very stereotypical CBS shows. There's not really much that's interesting about this. It feels very bland. Like, I've seen this type of episode 100 times before on several other CBS shows. McGee's story in this one, also really not that interesting. Him dealing with this Carter guy, kind of jumping to conclusions about him, but then he ends up getting judged by all of these other dads that look down upon him because, oh, he never wants to hang out, blah, blah, blah. And so then he starts to give Carter a chance. It isn't really that interesting of a story. I think there's a lot more either funny or a lot more sentimental things you can do with this story of McGee dealing with the dads whose kids go to the same school as his. There's just something there that I think there's a potential for, but then they just kind of go very simplistic with it. And that's really what it boils down to, is it feels like they always take a more simple route with a lot of these stories. like I said, it's not bad. It's not really that good either. It's somewhere in between. And I know that makes for kind of a short and not very interesting review of an episode, but that's sometimes what NCIS gives me. Sometimes it gives me an episode where there's not really a whole lot to talk about. It's just sort of a story that happens, and sometimes it can be funny, and sometimes it's just not. Sometimes, kind of like this one, where I see what they're trying to do. There are a couple puns made throughout that are more groan worthy than they are funny. And unfortunately, there's just not anything interesting to talk about in this. Keep it nice and short. Moving on to the next episode. I'll see you there in a sec. And finally, episode 3, Unearth. This was probably the best of the three. Nothing really spectacular with it, but just had some good moments between Torres and Dr. Grace, and just some good intense moments as well. Maybe wrapped up a little too simplistically, but I mean, it's NCIS. What do you expect? I will say the only thing that stood out to me as kind of lesser than everything else was Dr. Grace's assistant. I expected her to show up at some other point, but outside of the one scene where she showed up when McGee and Parker were looking through the office, never saw her again. So I don't know if she's one that'll come back later. It felt like she was going to have some importance the way that she suddenly just popped into the room and the character that they gave her. Granted, I was not a huge fan of that character. I don't know what it was about it, but something about the way she talked to McGee and to Parker, I know what they're trying to go for, the no nonsense like assistant that basically as soon as she finds out something happened to her boss, it's right to the point, no beating around the bush. She just basically wants to get Dr. Grace back as soon as possible. But the way that she did it sounded a little condescending, and I don't know, I wasn't a huge fan of that, but she still felt like she was going to be an important character, and then we just never see her again for some reason. But I do like the conversations between Torres and Grace. I think they've set up this sort of, I don't know if friendship's the right word, it's more so like therapist and patient relationship there. But I've liked some of the scenes that we've seen between the two of them in the past, and this was another good one in my opinion. I can't remember much about what we know of Dr. Grace and her past and all of that. So I do wish that she did show up more often so that way she was a bit more memorable. But I thought we got some nice moments here with her and learning more about what she's going through. And then outside of that, the only other thing was Ducky's party, and it's nice to see Ducky. Nice to see him have a little moment as well to go look into this archaeological stuff. Outside of that, his party was not really that interesting. All this question of what's Casey's theme gonna be, and her setting up at Parker's place for the party, and ultimately it didn't really lead to much. It was just they get there, and then Ducky knew the whole time, so he surprises them. And I don't know. I just was expecting a joke or a punchline of some sort, and nothing really funny happened with it. Casey made the comment about how she didn't really have a theme in mind, so she just didn't really go with anything. And I almost feel like that's what the writers did. They didn't really know how to wrap up this story, so they're like, well, we just won't go with really anything. We'll just have the party happen. And Ducky knew about it. I guess that could be funny, right? Some people without a brain cell might laugh at that, right? But all in all, like I said, this episode was definitely the best of the first three. Still not really that excited for this season, though. It feels like they just don't really have any good ideas anymore on how to make the show funny, how to make it interesting. I just don't really see what they could possibly do with it from here. So once again, I'm more so just watching just to see how on earth this show can even continue, considering a lot of these stories feel bland and done to death. But who knows, maybe there's a diamond in the rough waiting to pop out. But with all that being said, those are my thoughts on these first 3 episodes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these first 3? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future NCIS reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on there as well as some Let's Plays. So check those out if you have time. But until next time, hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.